A man boarded a plane with a briefcase. A few minutes later, he handed a note to a flight attendant. The note claimed he had a bomb. He demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. The FBI gave him everything he wanted. Then, on a cold, stormy night, he opened the rear stairs of the aircraft and jumped into the darkness. He was never seen again. More than 50 years later, nobody knows who he was or whether he survived. This is the mystery of D.B. Cooper. On the afternoon of November 24th, 1971, a man walked into Portland International Airport. He appeared completely ordinary. He was dressed in a dark business suit, a white shirt, and a black tie. He carried a briefcase and wore dark sunglasses. Using the name Dan Cooper, he purchased a one-way ticket for Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. His destination was Seattle, Washington. The ticket cost only $20. Nothing about the man seemed unusual. No one at the airport could have imagined that this quiet passenger was about to become one of the most famous criminals in American history. Even more remarkable, the world would never learn his true identity. To this day, nobody knows who D.B. Cooper really was. Shortly after the plane took off, the man sitting in seat 18C called a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. He handed her a folded piece of paper. At first, she thought it was just another passenger trying to flirt with her. She slipped the note into her purse without reading it. Then the man quietly leaned toward her and said something chilling. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Shocked, Florence opened the note. It claimed that the man was carrying an explosive device inside his briefcase. He then opened the case just enough for her to see several red cylinders and wires. Whether it was a real bomb or not remains unknown. But in that moment, she believed him. And so did everyone else. D.B. Cooper remained remarkably calm. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten anyone. Instead, he quietly explained exactly what he wanted. $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. The crew immediately informed the pilots. Soon, the message reached authorities on the ground. At first, officials weren't sure whether the threat was real, but they couldn't take the risk. The FBI and airline executives quickly agreed to cooperate. Meanwhile, Cooper calmly ordered a drink and even paid for it. As the plane continued toward Seattle, passengers had no idea that they were part of one of the most extraordinary crimes in American history. By the time Flight 305 landed, the ransom money and parachutes were waiting. On the evening of November 24th, Flight 305 finally landed in Seattle. Authorities delivered the ransom money and the 4 parachutes exactly as Cooper had demanded. One by one, the passengers were allowed to leave the aircraft. Most of them still had no idea that they had been part of a hijacking. Now, only D.B. Cooper and a small crew remained on board. Then, Cooper made another surprising demand. He ordered the pilots to take off again. This time, he wanted to fly toward Mexico. The aircraft took off into the cold night sky. Rain fell outside. Strong winds swept across the Pacific Northwest. Inside the cabin, Cooper calmly prepared for the next stage of his plan. No one knew it then, but one of the greatest mysteries in American history was only minutes away. Somewhere over the dark forests of the Pacific Northwest, D.B. Cooper made his final move. He instructed the remaining crew to stay inside the cockpit. Then, he was left completely alone. At approximately 8:13 in the evening, something unusual happened. The aircraft suddenly shook. The rear stairs had been lowered. Moments later, D.B. Cooper disappeared into the stormy night. No one saw him jump. No one heard him land. Below him were dense forests, freezing temperatures, heavy rain, and rugged mountains. Many investigators believed that no experienced skydiver would have chosen to jump under such dangerous conditions. Yet somehow, Cooper took the risk. And then, he vanished. It was the last time anyone would ever see him. The moment D.B. Cooper disappeared, one of the largest manhunts in FBI history began. Agents searched forests, rivers, and mountains across the Pacific Northwest. Military aircraft joined the operation. Helicopters scanned the area from above. Investigators believed they would eventually find a parachute, a body, or at least some evidence. But they found nothing. No trace of D.B. Cooper. No parachute. No clothing. No body. The mystery only became stranger. The FBI interviewed hundreds of people and investigated countless suspects. Over the years, thousands of pages of reports were collected. Yet every lead seemed to end in another dead end. It was as if D.B. Cooper had simply vanished into thin air. And then, nearly a decade later, something unexpected happened. For years, the investigation went nowhere. Then, in 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram made an incredible discovery. While vacationing with his family along the Columbia River, he found several bundles of decaying $20 bills buried in the sand. The serial numbers matched the ransom money given to D.B. Cooper. It was the first and only physical evidence ever linked to the hijacking. The discovery shocked investigators. How did the money get there? Had Cooper survived and lost the cash? Or had the river carried it there after his death? No one knew. The money answered one question, but it created many more. Over the years, investigators examined hundreds of suspects. Some believed Cooper was a former military paratrooper. Others thought he may have been an experienced pilot. Several men were publicly linked to the case, but none could ever be proven to be D.B. Cooper. As time passed, the mystery only grew. Did he survive the jump? Did he die somewhere in the wilderness? Or did he successfully disappear and begin a new life under another identity? Nobody knows. In 2016, after more than 4 decades of investigation, the FBI officially closed the case. But the mystery never truly ended. More than 50 years later, the identity of D.B. Cooper remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. A man boarded a plane. He demanded $200,000. He jumped into the darkness. And then he vanished forever. If you enjoyed this story and want more hidden, forgotten, and mysterious stories from across America, subscribe to America Unknown Files. The next mystery is already waiting.